you know what? I did this, didn't I? I'm just going to start it like this, right? I didn't have everything together. We were just talking about being real. Welcome to Coffee with Kim. I have got a great guest with me today. You are actually going to see him right now, but we are going to play his sizzle reel. Today on Coffee with Kim, coming from Las Vegas, Nevada, is Ronen Rahaman. Starting out in the construction industry with over 400 employees, Ronen now leverages his experience and expertise at Invictus Consulting as a business coach and strategist to accelerate results to business owners and professionals. When not helping a business owner live a life by design, he enjoys spending time with his family. Ronen, welcome to Coffee with Kim. All right. So let me back up a little bit. Ronen and I were just talking right before we went live, and I was saying, he's like, my dog might be barking. I'm like, you know what? We just get real here. Things happen. And then look what happened. I didn't even do my normal entrance, and that's okay. But I do want people to know that if you are someone who is trying to reclaim some of your time, then this is a show for you. So Ronen, let's talk about taking back our time and tell us a little bit about you and how you got started.
Well, I've been around for a while on planet Earth, and I grew up in Southern California. In 1994, I had an opportunity, 93, 94, I had an opportunity to come to Vegas and start or expand a painting and drywall company here. I had a partner. And together we built a $20 million a year business. It was really nice. The 90s in Las Vegas were magical times. It's like almost people were throwing money at you, especially if you're in construction. And so it was great and learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, did a lot of things right, obviously, because we made money. And it was a great experience. And then I just went on to work with home builders and software and helping them implement it and build teams and teamwork. So it was just an amazing time. And then now, after the financial crisis, I kind of took a look at things and said, you know what, I've really got a lot to say. I've got a lot to contribute. And that's what I want to do. And one of the ways that I do it is I do it through helping people really understand what's important to them in life and then schedule their time around that rather than having life schedule time for people, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. And, you and I originally, so we're both in Las Vegas, right? We're both, different parts of the valley. But just the amazing thing about the times that we live in is I actually met you through a mutual group and mastermind. And so it was like, wow, it's just such a small world, isn't it?
Oh, it's crazy. And, before I got into construction and painting and drywall, I used to always tell people the Stephen Wright joke. It's like, it's a small world. Yeah, but I wouldn't want to paint it. Right. And it's like all of a sudden I'm in the painting business. It's like, wait, that joke doesn't work anymore.
No, but
yes, I do want to paint.
Yes, you do. So let's talk a little bit on, so you've taken a lifetime of experience, right? And that's what a lot of us entrepreneurs do, right? And we wear many different hats. And so as I've gotten to know you and be around you, right, that influence, rubs off, especially if it's something that you kind of tune into. And for me, I am doing many different things right now. And so I needed that. And so whenever you speak in the mastermind, and as we've had some one-on-one conversations, I really perk up. And we were part of one of my other shows recently. And so I started implementing, Ronen, but I did baby steps. And when I told you baby steps, you gave me this little image here.
Right.
So talk to me about this, the importance of smaller steps.
So, I came across this image. I really loved it because, it's sort of like you're going to the same place, but when you take those smaller incremental steps, you're still moving forward and you're building and building and building and building, and you're taking on steps that you can actually do rather than taking on more than you can do. And that's kind of what the photo represents. If you have too much space, between the two rungs of the ladder, which represents kind of taking a big step, it's too big. You can't do it. And then you get discouraged, and then you get resigned, and then you start to wonder, how come I don't have what I want in life, right? Well, because you give up. And why do you give up? Because the steps are too big. So if you take small incremental steps, I would recommend a book, because one of the things about productivity, let me just say this. One of the things about productivity is it's changing a habit. It literally is changing a habit, and it's changing behavior. The system that you use just happens to be the system that you use. But what you're actually doing is changing a habit and changing the way that you operate in the world. And if that step is too big, then you may get discouraged. So having all those small incremental steps to implement the change is perfect. I read a great book. It's called Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg, F-O-G-G. And he talks, his common example is he was not flossing. The dentist giving him a hard time about not flossing. And he says, all right, I'm going to change this. And he starts flossing one tooth. And then after one tooth, he'll floss two teeth. Now, at some point, this kind of got accelerated, and he did all the teeth, right?
Right.
But he started with one tooth, and then after that one tooth, he had this sense of accomplishment, like, hey, I got it done. And it just reinforces the behavior. Now, I don't want to oversimplify the book, and I don't want you to think that by me saying that, you don't need to read the book. Read the book or listen to the book. And there's a workbook that goes along with it. So, I recommend that. But that is what we're doing, and that is what productivity is about, doing what you are most committed to doing, right? The process of getting into a productivity system is, I just hit a total brain fart.
Oh, sorry. No, I get so
yeah, it's a process.
It is. Systems are really important, and you and I have talked about them before. Where, my biggest thing is I was buying all the programs, and I was, I read the books. Man, I have books stacked all over around me, and I'm, I'll get a piece here, or I'll get a piece here. But when I was early on, 10, 15 years ago, when I started this process, I was getting overwhelmed, right? Because I had to do it this person's way, and then I would stop, like you just said, and then I would start another one, and this person. And what I've discovered for myself, and you can tell me otherwise, that doing the finding the pieces that work for me, then I'm more apt to continue and not quit. Is that something you found as you're working with people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I have my system, but I don't relate to my system as the system or the only system. It is a system. It is one of many systems. Whatever works for you to move you forward in your life so that you have what you want to have, that's fine. That's why I want to emphasize that it's about shifting a habit, which takes a level of intentionality that is probably more than what you're used to. Okay. I mean, it's really about being intentional about everything that you do, when you do it, how you do it, with whom you do it, why you do it. All those things are there. Get really clear about that and be really straight with yourself about what you are and aren't committed to. That's the foundation of any system that you use to be productive in life, or let's just say to manage your time is the buzzword. To get organized, I hear that a lot. Hey, I got to get organized. And I don't know what that means. Like, are your paper clips out of order? Like, what does it mean to get organized? You got to separate the jumbos from the regulars. That sometimes people think of that as organized, but it doesn't move their life forward. It just means that your paper clips are well sorted.
Well, like for today, right? I've had things written down, right? Which we're going to talk a little bit about that. I have tons of stacks of those, but I was not always transferring everything to my electronic calendar. And I wasn't scheduling time for myself. I wasn't scheduling time to take breaks, right? And I kind of got into that mode last year where I would sit chained to my desk for 18 hours. And it wasn't healthy.
No, not at all.
So,
There's so many reasons why I would tell you that's not healthy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
just from a spirit point of view, do you know what I mean? Like a mental well-being, an emotional well-being, that's grueling. And I can understand doing that for a season, doing that with a certain intention, especially if you're working on a project. My daughter works in movie production, and they have long days,
Hmm.
but they don't work every day. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, it can make sense, but certainly long term not sustainable. So what are you left with, right? You're left
Hmm.
with having to create a system that helps you get everything done, spreads everything out. I mean, God gave us time so that not everything happens at the same time, right? All at
Right.
once. So
Yeah.
let's
And so
schedule
that's,
that
and changing those habits, right? Because I
out.
got into a habit, right? And so now I'm recognizing things, right? And so I'm now having to shift out of that. And so I'm so excited to have you on here, sharing all of this, because I think really this is going to speak to so many people, and I'm really going to encourage them to reach out to you, because this is critical for them.
It is. It is. Um, Stephen Covey talks about P and PC, where P is your production, what you actually produce in the world, and PC is your production capacity. And people
Hmm.
forget about their production capacity because they get in the mode of, I got to do, I got to do, I got to do, I got to do. And they never take a step back and go, all right, how can I do more? Oh, well, to do more, you have to become more. You have to elevate however anything that you're doing. Otherwise, you're just going to be at the level that you're at.
Yes.
So understanding that and focusing on how to be productive, how to, and here's the thing, I just really got to share this. People always use the term manage my time. I gotta get better at time management. It's like, let me just share something with you. Time doesn't give a hoot about your opinion or anything. Time is time, and it doesn't care about you. But what you can manage is you can manage your commitments,
I like
right?
that.
So you can
Yep.
put your commitments in the calendar, manage that, not the time. Time is going to move on regardless of you.
Yes. 100%. I mean, we all have the same 24 hours. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter who you are, what you do, how much money or not money you make. We all have that same amount of time. That's the equalizer. So what are
Yeah,
you going
and
to do with it?
I will tell you, I watched an interview with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. It was a Charlie Rose interview from a long. It's old,
Yeah.
but Warren Buffett gives up his little planner, his calendar, and Charlie Rose is looking through it, and he's like, "There's nothing in here." And he's like, and he basically says, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, "I guard my time because that's the one thing I can't buy." I mean, right? Like he's got $85 billion. Is there really
Right.
anything you can't buy? Yeah, more time.
Right.
Right? So even he's present to the fact that even he can't manufacture more time. So why pretend like you can? Right? And
Right.
let's live and make the time that we have the most effective it can be.
And one of the things, that you and I've talked about before, that I had to personally learn a long time ago, and I sometimes have to be reminded of it, and that's saying no.
Yeah. Oh, you just gave away tip number 5.
Oh, sorry. Then let's start with the tips then. Let's shift to the
It's all good. It's all good.
tips.
Because even though I have 5 tips, I actually have 6. Yeah,
Probably more than that, or more
yeah,
than that.
or 7.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I don't usually like to give tips because they sort of that seems to reinforce this notion that we can do things quickly. Uh, but if you take these on, like really take these on as a practice, they will make a difference in your day. Even if it's a small difference, it will make a difference in your day. All right, so you
Yeah.
ready for number 1?
Yes.
All right. So you alluded to it. It's capture everything, right? So I have what I refer to as a capture tool, also known as a smartphone, because it is everything to us. But I have a particular app on there that I use, and it does all my productivity. And one of the functions of it that I like is that I hit a little button, brings up a little window. I write what I need to write, and then it saves it. That's it. And then at the end of the day, which is tip number 2, okay, I come back and I sort through everything that I captured that day, and then I process it into various lists of things that I'm going to do. And I may also go ahead and put it on the calendar, because the calendar is where I'm going to be working it from. So that's tip number 3, is work your calendar, not your list. Once I go through that process of review and I understand how and what I need to do it, I know what resources, I know the time frame, I know the due date, everything I need to know about the action or the project that I'm working on, I can put that in my calendar. And then when I put it in my calendar, I'm done, because I put the list away, because I can't do anything off that anyway, and I work off the calendar. Why? Because things take actual time to do, right? And you can fill something up with a bunch of action items, to-dos, but if you don't have a context for how much time they take, you can't do them all at the same time. So you have to lay out your time for what matters to you most, put that in the calendar, and then, you can fill in the other stuff after that. But once I put stuff in the calendar, I don't need to look at the list, because everything that's on the calendar is actually going to take me the day to do. And if I get a little bit faster, if I get something done a little bit earlier, maybe I discover something, whatever, I can always go back to my list and pull from that and do something. But I don't stare at this list, because it can also become overwhelming. You look at all these things to do, and then you just don't even know where to start.
Yes.
Right? So
I hear that all the time. I don't know where to start.
Yeah. We sit down to work, and then the first item on our list is to get ourselves organized. When you do it the night before, you can do that. You can get started in the morning, because it's already in your calendar. And then every day at the end of the day, I have one action item, which has subtasks on it. And it's called Complete the Day. And I review the appointments that I had that day. And are there anything in those appointments that I need to still finish? Any follow-up items? Or are they complete? Are they closed out? Like I just did this networking thing at lunch. Well, I still have an action item from that, which is to send people, the contact list for everybody that attended. Right. So I'll look at that at the end of the day, and then schedule that to be done in the morning. And then whatever else, then I'll look at my appointments. I look at tomorrow, what's happening, and I look to see what I can take from my list and get done. Or, they may have actual hard appointments with people. And it just becomes very easy. I wake up in the morning, I'm not confused. I go to bed at night, I'm not confused about tomorrow. So that's super important. So
you probably sleep a lot better that way too.
You do. I mean, not that, listen, part of it is age. So it's actually harder for me to fall asleep these days. But the other thing too is that I do sometimes churn things in my head. I visualize things, especially if there's any kind of uncertainty about something. But at the same time, I'm not confused about what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I may have some anxiety about it. I'm just being real. I may have some anxiety about it. I may be leading something and I'm a little nervous. Maybe it's the first time, whatever. We all have that stuff that we deal with. But at the end of the day, I'm not confused about what I'm doing. I might just be a little bit anxious about it.
Okay.
So let's see. So we captured everything. Work from your calendar. Plan your day the night before. And then this one is kind of in the realm of language. And that is do versus do. Due date versus due date, right? So when we hear due date, we hear, oh, I can get it in under the wire by this time, right? So we tend to put things in our calendar as a due date on the day that they're due, D-U-E. Well, when are you actually going to D-O it? When are you actually going to do it? That's the more important thing. Understanding when it's due and when your promise is going to be due, that's one thing. But when are you physically going to do this thing that takes actual time to do? And if you don't plan that out, then you're scrambling at the end. And then everything that you do, then when you only focus on the due date, everything in your life becomes last minute.
Oh, don't we all do that though? I mean, there's not very few people that I don't know that say they do things at the last minute.
Because of the way we created it. You put it in your calendar based on the due date. When is this due? Thursday, 2 p.m. Okay, boom, you put it in Thursday, 2 p.m. And then your brain, and then you're looking at it, oh, it's due on that day. Let me figure out when I'm going to squeeze that in, instead of
Yes.
actually carving time on the calendar to do that thing. Then the due date comes and it's like you got nothing. You just
Yep.
you've already sent it, or you've scheduled it to be sent, or whatever. You know.
Yeah. Nope. I think that's one of the most powerful ones that I've taken away from on here. I mean, all of them are. I'm trying to implement all of them, but that one is a critical one for sure.
Cool.
All right,
And then
next one.
Next one is just say no.
Yep.
Thank you, Nancy. And I'm appropriating that from her. But no, it is a very powerful thing. No is a full sentence. And saying no to people, like you started the show about being authentic about the dogs and everything. Well, saying no is actually being authentic, right?
I agree.
Otherwise, you're telling people, yes, I'll do that. You're accommodating. You feel like you said the right thing. People still like you. But then this thing comes due at some point. Like you actually have to deliver on it.
Right.
Right. And that's when either one of two things happens. You grin and bear it and you do it, or you start to make excuses. And then when you start to make excuses, people start to not be able to count on you.
Yeah.
And so the impact of saying yes to something you have no intention of doing is huge. It breaks the trust with people. I mean, you might excuse it and they'll go, yeah, no, I know things happen, blah, blah, blah. But they won't come back to you. First time, shame on them. Second time, shame on you, kind of thing.
Yes.
Right.
I love
And
that. I love that saying. My dad taught me that one.
Exactly. And it applies, and nobody wants to be in that position. So I always tell people, be straight, say, no, I'm not going to do that. Because then anything else is just total passive aggressiveness,
Yeah.
and not being straight, not being genuine with people. And nobody wants to deal with anybody that's not straight. We all want to relate to each other as our word.
Yep. 100%. And that is, we talked a little bit before about, as we grow our businesses or we want to grow our business, it has to do with who we are, right? My business is only going to be as good as who I am. So is that part of the growth?
And we forget that, we all wear a lot of hats, and I know that, but saying yes to something that you don't want to do, it's just not a good idea. I don't think I need to actually say that. I think people know that, but what I want to do is give people permission to say no. You don't have to say yes. And sometimes people will appreciate a no because you're being straight with them more than a yes, and then they have to deal with your BS.
Yep. 100%.
I don't know how to put it any more straight than that.
No, you are being very straight, very transparent, and getting right to the heart of the. I love these. Okay, next, what's your bonus?
I got a couple of bonus ones. So number one, if you're multitasking, you're not. So just hate to be the one to break it to you. There's no such thing as multitasking. The only thing that can multitask is maybe a computer, okay, with multiple processors, something like that. But your brain is one processor. It only does one thing at a time. Now, you might say, but I'm doing this and I'm doing this. Yes, what you're actually doing is task switching. So you're not actually doing two things at the same time. You're task switching. You're doing this, and then you're swapping to that, and then you're swapping to that, back and forth. I had a chef friend of mine argue with me. Yeah, but I can be cooking a roast and chopping onions. Yes, you're chopping the onions, then you're putting the knife down, checking on the roast, closing the oven, then coming back to your onions. That's not doing two things at the same time. That's doing two things concurrently, but you're swapping back and forth. And there's an impact because they say it takes about 23 minutes to transition from one to the other. Not in every case, but if you're working on something that's really deep and you need your brain to think about it, if you start to try to do something else, to get back in the groove of what you're doing, on average is about 23 minutes, right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. What can you do with 23 minutes if you're actually doing it productively? And then we wonder, where did the time go? Oh my God, it just went out in the air. So that's it. Stop pretending like you're multitasking. You're not. And be straight. If you're deciding to task switch, that's fine. Just don't pretend like you're multitasking. Just understand what you're doing and then choose powerfully to do it or not do it. That's the easiest way for me to put it. All right. And then
Okay.
the last one, this is like my favorite one, because this will help you, especially for business owners that are dealing with a lot of people. And, if you're good at even if you're good at delegating or not, having a buy win on every promise that you make will give you clarity, will give them clarity. Right. So
Okay.
when people say to me, yeah, I'll do that, my first question is, by when? So in the beginning, they don't get too crazy. It's like, oh, I'll do it by Friday. Okay, Friday, what time? That's when they start to have spilkus. They start to get anxiety here and they sweat. Oh my God, I got to commit to a time? Yeah. Like, how are you going to know when to get it done? How do I know when to follow up with you? Like, it's like the most natural thing. And there's a lot of power. Like, people don't have to ask me when I'm going to do it by, because I've trained myself so well in this process. Like, it is
You
second nature.
have
I have, right?
with
Like,
me. With
I
me.
will do it by 5 p.m. tomorrow, right? Like,
Yes.
that's what I'll tell you. I'm not going to tell you, yeah, I'll get it done by early next week. I can't follow up on early next week, or I'm going to be such a pest because you're so vague. And that to me is the deal that I create with people. You give me a by when, and I'm not going to hassle you until that, right? Unless,
Yeah.
it's a big project and I feel like you're going to get stuck, but I'll create that with you. I'll say, hey, listen, so it's going to be by Friday, and I'm just going to check in with you tomorrow morning and see how it's going. Like, you be straight with people. So when I do that, I know when they're going to do it. They know what to do. I know when to set the follow-up for them, or to check in, and I can key my schedule off of them, especially if they're someone that I know that can keep their promise. Like, if they say 5 p.m., that's 5 p.m. Like, done.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
that really is a powerful way to do it. But people don't want to give a buy when, because sometimes they don't know what it's going to take to do something, but they're afraid to say that. It's like, this is like
Right.
a big project. I don't know if I could get it done. This is if you share that with me, then I'll say, okay, well, let's talk that out. Let's work it out. And I'm asking you to give me the buy when. I'm not telling you the buy when. So when you choose the buy when, you should be able to factor all that in. If I have a problem with it, like if it's a critical path kind of project and that kind of doesn't work, I'll tell you. But if you say if you say Friday 5 p.m., okay, Friday 5 p.m. If Friday 5 p.m. doesn't work for me, I might counteroffer and say, well, can you get it done by 8 a.m. on Friday? And then we'll hash it out. But at the end, we'll agree for what works for you, what works for me, and then everybody knows what's going on, so we can plan our day.
No, I think this is just huge takeaways here. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here on you, because we're going to wrap this up. You work with so many varied people. So what are some of the things that you're finding, out in the business world that people are struggling the most with right now as you're consulting?
Well, in the small to medium size space, it's definitely understanding that you're in your own way. I mean, I can't say it any more plainly than that. And when you first meet a business owner and they have all these complaints about their employees and this and that and that and that, the one thing in common is usually them, right? And I'm getting that thing. So that's a huge problem for people, because there's a whole mindset around being a business owner that people don't always understand. The E-Myth is a great book. It explains it all. It is kind of the prototype for what it is that we do, because we really help small to medium-sized business owners understand that whatever it is that they know how to do, they're a printer, they're a plumber, they're whatever, that's one thing. And the knowing of how to do that doesn't make the business work. What makes the business work is you actually being a business owner. And that's a hard thing. You mentioned having multiple, people wearing multiple hats. I've never actually done this, but I've wanted to do it. And that is, buy multiple hats, one that says accounts receivable, one that says accounts payable, one that says payroll. And every time you go to do one of those, you got to change the hat every time. Just as a way to get somebody present to, wow, I'm doing a lot here. And I'm also flipping very often, right? So I'm kind of not even scheduling my work. It's like, oh, let me do this for a second. Oh, no, just to get them present to that. But that happens a lot. And that's a lot of the problem that I see. And then beyond that, it starts to get into leadership kind of things and how you show up and how you communicate with your employees, things like that.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Well, thank you so much. So how can people get a hold of you? I am going to pull it up here. And how do you work with people?
We always start with a strategy session. And the strategy session is a free 90-minute conversation that we have, plus or minus. We're not therapists, so we don't cut you off. And we let you talk. And you will discover in that 90-minute session what's going on in your business. And you will be left with more clarity, more direction, and actions to take that will, from that session, make an impact in your business.
Well, I think that is one of the most generous gifts you can give someone. We talked about time, right? And 90 minutes is a lot of time. And so, everyone here, I think, email Ronen, right? You obviously see the value that he gives. Definitely reach out to him and get that 90 minutes, because you have lots of years here, and he can save you the 15 to 30 year learning curve for sure. So.
Yeah, and I just want to add that it's 90 minutes of actual working on your business. It's not a 90-minute sales pitch. Okay, this is not timeshares. I'm not selling timeshares. So we don't lock you in a room. We don't all that stuff. It is truly 90 minutes where we sit down and we go over things, and then you walk away left with what you're left with, actions to take and improve your business. It's not my thing, because here's the thing. I always use the saying, you can't push a rope, right? So why would I want to convince you to do coaching with me if you're not convinced that that's what's good for you? I got to pull you all the way. I got to drag everything out. And that doesn't work. No, it is a process of discovery that I'm going to lead you through. You're going to discover things about yourself, about your business, that will elevate your performance, but I can't drag it out of you. So everybody in this process has to be a willing participant. And if that's what you end up with at the end of the strategy session, fine. But if it's not, fine. Just that's why we do it.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Ronen. Everyone, like I said, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Huge value here today, huge takeaways. If you didn't have pen and paper, I need to start at the beginning of these Coffee with Kim saying, get pen and paper out, because the value that you're going to receive today is huge. So thank you again, Ronen, for coming. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and have a great day.